Yeah, hi there. These comments are for HM. I am Michael from OTC Online TOEFL Course.com, and you have a question. This question is: should I have my TOEFL speaking and writing scores reviewed? Right? So let's take a look at your situation. Now, I'm going to be honest here. I'm an expert on helping you to improve your academic English language proficiency so that you can get a super high TOEFL score. However, I'm not an expert on all the inner workings of ETS and how they do what they do and how they reach all their scores. So I'm not that. I'm not going to lie to you there. So I know a lot about how to learn English, how to teach it, all those kinds of things. So I'm going to do my best to answer your question. And I haven't gotten a lot of emails and a lot of feedback about scoring and whether it is effective or ineffective. I even called ETS and I asked them, I go, well, what's the percentage? What if somebody does want to get their speaking or writing rescored? What percent actually succeed in doing that? And they say they don't even have statistics on it. So I don't have any stats on whether it is effective or not, whether it's helpful or not helpful to try to get a rescore. But let's take a look at your question here. I will do my best. And congratulations on your excellent English skills, no matter what the TOEFL says. I can tell by the writing here. You say, over the last couple of months, I've regularly watched your YouTube videos, and I really appreciate the specific feedback which you always give. This week I received my TOEFL results. Although I scored 108 in total, I missed the requirement of 25 in the speaking section by only one singular point. And that is what I call TOEFL hell right there. You say, as I need to submit the English certificate by October the 3rd, the only option that I have is to ask for rescoring. So with that said, I have two questions. Is it true that 25 as a score in the speaking does not exist? I've heard this a lot. No, it exists because that's exactly what you got. But you could say this: it did not exist. And the answer is yes. I don't know, a few years ago, students would go from 24 to 26 unexplainedly, and there wasn't a 25 score. It wasn't possible. And then they made some changes, and now many people like you are getting a score of 25. So it did not exist, but it exists now. Now, if you ask me, well, why is there a 25 now, and why was there not one in the past? I don't know. I really don't know. ETS has a special sauce they use to get your calculations. They don't share that with everybody. So I don't know how exactly they get 25, right? What I do know is when students take the TOEFL exam who have trained with me and who have coached with me, they come back and tell me I got 25, I got 26, I got 28, I got 30. One of my students got 30 a couple of months ago. So at least I know from experience I can compare your speaking with other students speaking to tell you how you stack up. But to answer the question is, it is true that 25 as a score did not exist in the past. That's true. But the score 25 does indeed exist now. Now, why it exists now and not in the past, I cannot answer that question. Now, anybody at YouTube, I got a pretty big YouTube community. If anybody can shed light on this answer, please answer it in the comments below the video. Let's work together to share information. Okay, now the next question. You say, now with the introduction of non-human raters, do the chances of getting your higher scores vanish? You cover some details in the blog. I don't think so. I don't think that they vanish. Okay? Let me explain to you why. At my TOEFL blog, I talked about SpeechRater. SpeechRater is a program that ETS has developed for about 10 years, right? So it evaluates your pronunciation fluency, vocabulary, and grammar. So it helps you in those areas. Now, what it does not help you with, and this is what's called the limitations, it cannot provide feedback so you understand what problems you have, but it can't determine whether or not your content matches the requirements of the task. So I think this is important. So the speech rater, I'm assuming this is probably what they're using. They're using this tool as an additional way to evaluate what I call the linguistic features of your speaking. So it's looking at your pronunciation, your fluency, your vocabulary, and your grammar. Now, if you're really confident in those areas, that you feel like you do very well when you're speaking in those areas, but then you also have to be confident that your speaking tasks directly addressed the requirements of the independent and integrated tasks. Right? You got to be very confident in those areas, because speech rater is not going to determine whether you directly addressed the requirements of the task. So the non-human rater cannot do that. The non-human rater will look at pronunciation, fluency, vocabulary, and grammar. So I think that's important that you can know that. And the limitations are, it cannot tell you if you did indeed address the speaking task. Okay, so then the question is, to rescore or not to rescore, it says, let me make sure I'm getting the whole thing here. Okay, it says, in case you've been able to gather more experiences from students since then, a few more words in this topic would be helpful for me and the YouTube community. I have not been able to gather a lot of research on this. I've not gotten a lot of feedback from students who have had their tests rescored. I've had maybe feedback from 8 or 9, and it was about 50-50. I cannot tell you that maybe half of them it worked well, the other half it didn't. So I don't think there's any way to really predict if it's going to be helpful in your case. You have to ask yourself this question. Do you believe that you performed optimally during the speaking section? What reason do you think the non-human raters have in terms of grammar, vocabulary, fluency, and pronunciation? Are there any reasons the non-human rater would have any problems in any of those areas? And then the human raters, they're saying that you maybe had some slight problems with the task. If we go back to the actual rubrics here, where is it? So if you're not quite a 4, it means that your speech is generally clear. You have some minor difficulties with pronunciation, intonation, or pacing. Maybe some minor things. Maybe you have some imprecise or inaccurate use of vocabulary or grammar. Do you believe that's the case? Right? Do you have a fairly coherent organization, and did you address the aspects of the task? If you feel pretty confident that you performed very well and you feel like you did better than what you thought you were scored, then you probably have a good case for rescoring. I think that I said at my blog, if you're within 1 to 2 points of what your goal is and you're within 1 point, you probably, I think you have a good chance, but you've already answered your own question. Your back's against the wall. Right? You have no time. So you have to get the rescore, hoping that you're higher than what they say you are. So in your case, you really have no choice. What you want to do is do the rescore, pay the money. Of course they're going to charge you, right? And I don't know why they do that. Well, they're trying to get more money. It's a business, right? So do the rescore, and then you got to come back and let me know what happens. That's what nobody does. Nobody lets me know the result of what their rescoring is. So if you do the rescoring, come back, come back to the YouTube to this video and below and say, hey, Michael, I actually did my rescoring. My original score was 24 points on the speaking section, and after the rescore, here's what the result was. And then you can provide feedback there. And then if other people continue to provide more and more feedback and we get 100 or 200 comments, then it's going to be much more useful, and we'll have a much bigger database that we can work from to help predict outcomes for future students. So that would be helpful. So anybody who's watching YouTube, please, if you've had the speaking or the writing rescored, tell us what happened. What was the result of that? And come back to this video and make a comment. Please share the video with other people so that they can have a chance to make a comment. Because let's face it, there's only going to be 100 or 200 views on this video unless you guys start emailing it and putting it at social media. That's the only way it's going to get more views. Right? Okay, so anyway, that's my answer to yours. I think for you, you've answered your question. You must have the rescoring because you have no other option. And then you let us know at the YouTube community what happens. All right, so I hope that in some way, and I don't know in what way, but maybe in some way, these comments may give you some clarity, I hope. All right, thank you. And don't forget, everybody, if you get a chance, subscribe to my channel. You'll be notified when I do new videos.